Alright, y'all, we're doing it. It is the Sephora sale video. The major theme of this video is gonna be basically like I'm recommending to y'all the things that I think are crowd pleasers from my standpoint. They're the kinds of products that I would recommend because they are so likely to be what you're looking for in a certain category. Not necessarily because it's like some kind of like mind-blowing product. I think that we have moved into a really great space recently, or we're getting there, where products are taking themselves a lot less seriously in terms of virality and like wanting to be the next special thing. We just want good makeup, okay? And that's what I wanted to focus on today. So that is what we're going to do. I am not going to pull the makeup out as we go because, oh my God, we have a lot to get through today. I want this to be a useful shopping guide. I have actually separated it out by category. There will be chapters down below. I know, who am I? But I do. I want to make this really easy for y'all. And Shop My Shelf also, like every time I make links for a video, you can always click through to just shop the shoppable page. And you don't even have to listen to me talk about it. You know what I mean? You can just scroll and be like, ah, yes, I wondered if she cared about that. You know? I'm also going to have a segment right in the beginning where I do a quick and dirty review on a lot of the stuff that just came out that I just got in my hands. They're not going to be like these complete exhaustive reviews, but I still want to give y'all an idea of how I'm feeling about some of the brand new things that just came out that I just got in the mail, because I think that that's really important as we go into the Sephora sale. But first, y'all, today's video does have a sponsor, and it is not Sephora. I think that the Sephora sale is something that you should feel is entirely optional, and honestly, buying anything for yourself cosmetically is completely up to you. But there is one beautiful product that I swear by that you never have to refill. And that is my Current Body Series 2 LED mask. I have it sitting right here. So if you're unfamiliar with Current Body, I've been partnering with them for a while because they are the true authorities on beauty devices. I'm a big fan of a beauty device, again, for the same reason. It's like, I love the idea of buying something once. When I'm underslept, dehydrated, all of the things that happen in life regularly, right? Not necessarily because of unhealthy lifestyle, just life in general, my skin will start to look kind of see-through, kind of dull. I'll get the pigmentation showing back through and veins and stuff like that from inflammation. And the LED red light therapy in this specific mask is what makes everything look so much better when I wake up in the morning plump and hydrated. It's because it's like telling my skin how to get back to work doing what it's good at. The Series 2 also has this nice little piece that goes underneath your chin. We all love that. I mean, who doesn't want some collagen stimulation there? And I think that since the explosion of the success of the first few products like this on the market, there have also been, just like there always are, a bunch of cheap impersonations of these LED masks, and they all kind of look the same to the naked eye, right? But I will tell you that Current Body owns end-to-end the manufacturing process and all of the quality control for this Series 2 mask. One of the biggest misconceptions of these is that like more is better. Some of these have too many lights, right? And they're gonna be too close together, and that can actually do more harm than good. This one is specifically designed for anti-aging purposes. It's gonna stimulate all the sorts of things that build collagen in your skin. I notice this when I use it one night. So while I have absolutely no intention of knocking other brands, especially the ones who have put the scientific work in preceding products like this to exist, I'm not saying that they were ever bad. It's just that this is the one that I think is the most effective one I've ever tried. Like when the company knows what they're doing, when they really take the time to study the difference between what works and what doesn't, that more is not always better, that targeting the treatment for your specific skin needs is incredibly important, and that quality and transparency throughout the entire manufacturing process makes all the difference in the world. You're not buying something kind of like random with no customer service attached to it, you know what I mean? That is where, if you're going to spend the money, that's where the money is best spent. So as always, y'all, you can use my code here on the screen and you can get 10% off of anything Current Body Skin, not just this mask. And they just released the Series 2 of the neck and deck mask, which I am so excited to get my hands on. Y'all can use my link below to check out Current Body's entire offering, and you can get 10% off all of the Current Body Skin products. I highly, highly recommend that you do. The Series 2 mask is a game changer, and I want to thank Current Body for sponsoring a portion of today's video. All right, y'all, let's jump into my list of recommendations of things that I I think are worth checking out at the Sephora sale. Okay, I just pulled up my recent orders. I'm going to do this so rapid fire. You can jump through this section if you want, but I still want to make sure that y'all get an idea of how I'm feeling about like my first impressions on the products that just came out that I have not had a chance to make a video about yet. So I got the Urban Decay 24/7 Glaze On Shimmer Liquid Eyeshadows. I got Space Cowboy Intense and Sugar Twist. Y'all, nothing to write home about. The base is not water soluble. In my last video, I said water-based. Water-based doesn't necessarily convey what I'm trying to say. A lot of these liquid eyeshadows that have been coming out lately are water soluble. So water can exist in something without it being water soluble. They like don't stay. Ew, why would I want something water soluble on my eyes? And so when I put this on, I swatched it, whatever, it washed off immediately, like the entire thing washed off, and I'd only had it on for like maybe 5 minutes on the back of my hand. I left it on for like 20 minutes and the only thing that washed off was the glitter. And what was left behind was kind of like a patchy version of the base color. All that to say, A, I don't think that it's the best liquid eyeshadow that I've ever used, but B, it's not that pretty once it's on. Like I would highly recommend just, I mean, I have it on right now and I feel nothing. I got the new Givenchy pressed powder. Yes. Yes, it is to me so far as good as the original loose powder. We were all disappointed by the new loose powder because it was so shiny, and this one is not. The NARS eyeshadow sticks, the shimmery eyeshadow sticks, I got Laguna and Hustle because they're both kind of a shimmering brown gold. Nope, they're sad. Sorry. I mean, they're just not giving me the same thing as the Ilia. Oh, and also look at it already. That's the Urban Decay. Like, it's already creasing and patching off. Like, no. But anyway, yeah, the NARS ones, the colors are dull, the shimmers are what you expect a lot of times from shimmer eyeshadow sticks where you're just like, is it in the room with us right now? You know? Oh, the YSL, I got the YSL Love Shine Plumping Lip Oil Gloss with Hyaluronic. Hindash, I blame you. He was like, oh my God, they're so pretty. And I think that they probably are pretty, but they do that thing that pisses me off where they are so spicy on the lips that it kind of doesn't matter that much what color you buy because it's gonna turn my lips bright red anyway. I find it to be uncomfortable. It's not the worst. It's not like as bad as the Gucci, but I still lose the colors of them. And I bought 3 freaking colors of it and they all just turn my lips bright red. It's an extremely effective plumper. I will give it that. And some people love that obviously because these products continue existing, but like I'm disappointed because like the subtlety of like a really grungy lavender is totally lost at the hands of that formula. I got the new Merit lip liners. They're really pretty, but yeah, I think they're gonna annoy some people just because they are so sheer. I find them to be very effective, but I think that they're for low contrast people. The same way that I said that like Violette's line is mainly for high contrast people. I think that those lip liners were made for people like me who pretty much everything shows up on. If you've got like a high contrast complexion, you're not gonna notice it. It's gonna probably frustrate you. And the wear time is not supposed to be super long. Like they're supposed to really blur and blend. So it's not for everybody. I like them. I think the colors are really cool, but like I do think that they're more for people who are low contrast. The Shade Slick Sheen High Shine Tinted Lip Oil Tongue Twisters are more pigmented than I expected them to be. They're pretty, but like they kind of take over a look for me. I think that I would prefer the original ones. They're just kind of a little bit too much of like a lip color for me. And the new Westman Atelier, the new powder duos are off the charts. Just off the charts. They're absolutely gorgeous. I have the same instant romantic feelings that I had for the Pat McGrath powder blushes when I first tried them, which if any of y'all were on my channel when that happened, it was like a hard and fast love affair. They're still like one of the best formulas on the market. That's how these feel to me. And I got Mimi and Coquette. Are you freaking kidding me with the color Mimi right now? Are you kidding me with that color? These are really, really great. The formula is awesome. You can decide whether you think they're worth $75, but like I'm gonna use this all the way up, which is more than I can say for like, you know, a Say blush that costs like 1/3 the price, right? And that's that on that. Let's jump into my list. We're gonna start with primers, okay? Again, we're not pulling every product out, so I'm going to stick photos of them up here as we talk because again, I don't want this video to take the rest of your lives to watch. The first one that I want to talk about is the CL primer. I have been wearing it almost every day since I got it because it's beautiful, okay? It is also additional sunscreen, which is great, but it makes everything go on so smoothly for me and it actually extends the wear time of my makeup. It isn't super dewy slippy. It does have some grip to it. I think that it works for a lot of different skin types. It's gorgeous. I have no complaints about it. I also For people who have dry skin and really love the appearance of something being dewy, but they need the makeup to still perform, the One Size primer, the Secure the Glow primer, is pretty remarkable. I think that it is a really, really great product for dry skin. Skin tints. You're never gonna hear me say a bad word about the Danessa Myricks skin tint. It has quite a bit of presence on the skin, but it really behaves like a skin tint in the sense that like it looks really effortless on the skin, but it's gonna give you more coverage than most skin tints, which I always say is just, it's a lot of confidence. I think that they actually are flexible shades, which is wild. Like a lot of these brands talk about like, oh, it's a skin tint, they're flexible shades. Blah. And they did come out with some more shades that weren't exactly as like olive and nuanced as I expected them to be. Nonetheless, I have a lot of friends who have quite different undertones from me, and like our same shade, I wear shade 2, like works for all of us. So I do think that it is a really, really well-designed line, and it's one that I just come back to so much, especially when I'm having bad skin days, because it doesn't piss my skin off and it looks really fantastic. The Ilia skin tint, I feel like she's finally coming back to having her moment. This is for people with super, super, super dry skin, or people who want a dewy, dewy, dewy face regardless. Like there's no really getting around it. It is one of the like dewiest, serumiest, glowiest skin tints you'll ever use. It's got mineral sunscreen in it. It has a smell. It's not a fragrance. The smell kind of bothers people, but like it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just kind of a funny, like waxy smell. To me, I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but like it doesn't mean that your bottle has gone, it doesn't mean that the beer has gone bad. You know, it just kind of has a smell to it. Foundations, Prada. I think that the Prada foundation is still one of the biggest crowd pleasers I've ever used. It still sticks in my memory as some of the best money you can spend on a luxury foundation because it's so versatile, okay? It can be worn by so many different skin types. The shade range is pretty great. Like I feel like they put their money in the right places there. It is replaceable. The actual cartridge is glass on the inside and the outside is plastic, so it does travel well, and I think that it's just pretty to interact with, and I have never had a bad makeup day when I wore it. And it's not super dewy. It's actually like a satin, natural looking finish. It's just fantastic stuff. The Charlotte Tilbury Unreal Stick. This is not for everyone, but it is really awesome. I prefer this so far and above the Hollywood Flawless Filter because it's such a high performing, low profile product on the skin. You have so much more control over it, and it really behaves like a foundation stick that just has almost no coverage to it and just a lot of glow. I've never gotten along with the Hollywood Flawless Filter because it's just too much Tin Man. This doesn't do that. It gives you a beautiful texture on the skin that cooperates with other complexion products just like a foundation would. It's kind of supportive of wear time and things like that, but it's so subtle. It's so much more subtle, and you can really use it more easily, in my opinion, as like a subtle highlighter. Again, I can't not compare it to the Hollywood Flawless Filter. I just like it so much better than the Hollywood Flawless Filter. And it really, to me, at least in my part of the internet, didn't get its flowers. The new Laura Mercier reformulation of their skin tint, right? They took octinoxate out of it, which means that that's a chemical sunscreen that bugs my skin. So I got back into it. It reminds me a lot of the, what did they do? The Light Revealer a few years ago that I loved. It's all that same beautiful, easy to wear, forget that it's there kind of, you know, tinted moisturizer. It's really, really lovely. I highly recommend it, and it comes in like every texture. They have a matte, they have a dewy, they have, you know what I mean? It's great. And finally, in this category, the Patrick Ta foundation. It has the weird combination of having a really long wearing base to it and having a really dewy finish to it. It's kind of like those long wearing lip glosses that were popularized for a while by like Urban Decay and House Labs, where they would go on, there's a layer of color, there was a layer of like a dewy glossy finish, and they didn't go anywhere, which was just bananas. Like nothing we'd ever seen, except it doesn't really work that well as a lip product because it starts to like resolve in the corners of your mouth and stuff because your mouth's wet, obviously. And so I am glad that we're not seeing brands running with that so much, but I do think that there is some kind of similar technology to Patrick Ta's foundation, because if you give it like 10-15 minutes on the skin, it becomes transfer proof in the most bananas unexpected way possible because it still looks and feels really hydrated. So it's for people like me, definitely, who have dry skin, but it is a savior for us as well. I think that it is a triumph among some of his more questionable decisions lately, okay? We have a lot of concealers. Refy's concealer I feel like is not appreciated enough. It's actually pretty well priced for Sephora, affordable if you will. The shade range is cool for people who have trouble finding shades other places. It's kind of like how Rose Ink was, in the sense that like she has made some really, really desaturated pale shades that it's just hard to find other places, and it's a really pretty natural finish, hydrating kind of concealer that still performs. And it's one of those things that's like forgettable in a good way. I always say that like complexion products, I don't mind if they're forgettable. I would love to put a complexion product on and forget that it's there, because that means that it's good. I don't really want to like forget about a blush. I want to be excited about a blush. I want to be excited about an eyeshadow. I want to forget about a complexion product, and these are like beautifully forgettable. You put them on and you're like, that was great now that I think about it. It's really good, and I think that the colors are really well informed. I wear shade 3, and it is, again, it's like that beautifully desaturated nude on me. Givenchy Prism Libre, which I've actually heard at least people with an American accent say Prisme Libre would be like the most proper way for someone who can't do a French accent properly to say it. So Prisme Libre. It's gonna take a second. But yeah, that skincare and concealer, I wear the shade N95. It is hydrating, it is gorgeous, it's long wearing, and it's actually pretty cost effective for the amount of product that you get. I've been singing its praises since like the day that it graced us with its presence. Tom Ford! The Tom Ford stick. It's expensive, but it's gorgeous. I'm wearing it right now. Oh my gosh. If you want something so low profile, it's so slick and gorgeous. I used to use his foundation stick. It has since been discontinued. I don't remember what the name of it was, but this I feel like is a better use of a similar formula, in the sense that it doesn't really have its own quote unquote dry down because it is in a stick format, but it works in the concealer because it's so thin. It's so thin that you don't necessarily need powder to set it, and it still really does the job of like holding its own, having enough pigment, going on smoothly, totally undetectable. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous concealer. I think that next to that is the new one from Tarte. I think that the new one from Tarte is really good. It's not as good as the Tom Ford, but some people don't want to pay Tom Ford prices, and I think that it is pretty darn good. The CL concealer. Do not sleep on the CL concealer. It's got a lot of SPF in it. It shouldn't be your only SPF, but I love that she has managed to make so many formulas with really elegant integration of physical sunscreen. Like, they really are beautiful formulas. You do not feel like you're compromising at all for them having an SPF 50 in them in some cases. And that concealer, like, from so many people, I've heard them be like, wow, I think I had like tempered expectations because I was expecting to be using something that felt like sunscreen, and it doesn't. It's just a beautiful concealer. The CeraCreole, you know, I am kind of crowdsourcing this information in a lot of ways because people in my comments who have a more difficult time with like aging under eyes and things like that have said that it is some of the only concealer that works for them and wears and doesn't crease and doesn't just like make everything look worse. It's hydrating, it's long wearing. The shade range I hope expands soon, but it's okay right now. It's expensive, so it's a good time to get a discount on all things CeraCreole. And I'll always recommend the Kosas. I think the Tower 28 has kind of fallen off for me, not because I don't like it, but because I have, again, crowdsourced so many negative opinions about it, such mixed reviews about it, that I feel less confident recommending it because I might be having a great experience with it, but I don't know why. You know, I don't know why my experience is good and so many people's experience is bad. And that makes it so that I don't necessarily want to. But the Kosas is fantastic. Crowd pleaser. Bronzer. We have the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer. It is a gel weight bronzer that does just such an amazing job of having like a no makeup bronzing effect. And if you do want a little bit more pigment to it, then I highly recommend actually just like, you know, going deeper a shade. I wear light, but it's enough on me because I'm very low contrast. But I love it also as a last step because it does like the Patrick Ta effect, right? Where it brings the skin texture back without laying a whole bunch of pigment down. Anytime I run out of it, I'm like, I can make do, and then I cannot make do, and I just buy it again. I think I'm on my fourth one at this point. It's a phenomenal formula. Armani Luminous Silk Powder Bronzer. Yes, just yes. Especially if you have olive undertones. It's just such a beautiful, at least I wear shade 90. It's a beautiful kind of olive leaning formula. It looks like it has sparkle in it. I think it's just a spray over. It doesn't show sparkly on the skin, and like you can really apply it haphazardly, and it's just gorgeous. It just keeps richening the skin. It's one of those luxuriously enormous pans of product, so even though it's expensive, you get it in your hands and you're like, yeah, it feels like, you know, whatever it was, like $68 or something. There's just something about it where I'm like, this could be your only bronzer and you would be happy that you spent the money. I mean, if it's in your budget, like don't go take my advice if $68 is like, you know, gonna break the bank for you. But if it's something that you have been eyeing and you've been like, hey, you know, should I not? You know, it's a good time again to get a discount on something like that because it's really expensive. Same goes for the Gucci. That's a very expensive bronzer, but the specialness of that, I mean, the formula is gorgeous. It's really, really finely milled, super soft. Reminds me a lot of the Westman Atelier bronzer, which is also something I recommend. But that lightest shade is so rosy. So that's one of the biggest selling points. It just doesn't look like anything else. And it's like some people, especially olive undertones or just people who are really fair, benefit from a rosy bronzer, and that Gucci bronzer is so gorgeous. And it also happens to be, I don't love that they replaced the gold on the interior of the package with more teal, but it remains one of the most beautiful makeup components on the market, in my opinion. I just love it. Yeah, Westman Atelier has really knocked my socks off. I've always loved their powder bronzer because it is one of the most magnificent powder formulas there is. It's wild. Like you just can't, it's so creamy. It doesn't behave like a powder, but it's really, really gorgeous. And then she just came out with this liquid bronzer that I at first did not love, but with the caveat that it does not work on a sponge because it'll kind of dry into the sponge and pick your makeup back up. And I'm finding that that's not the only product that's the case with. Like a lot of these sort of more serum-y blushes and bronzers and things like that, they'll all do that. You're better off using a synthetic brush to apply it, and then you will have phenomenal results. It's very, very pretty. And I would also recommend the Glossier. You know, that's right within a lot of people's budget, especially at Sephora, and I recommend Swept. Past tense. I got there, y'all. Swept is the shade for olive undertones that people seem to really like. I wear blush. The blush category is huge. We're gonna zoom through this, and I probably am still not going to cover every single thing that I am passionate about. We already talked about the new Westman Atelier duos. Yes, 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 just yes. They're not live at this exact moment. I still bought mine on the Westman Atelier website, but I was able to see some of them in store, so I know it's happening soon. All right, can't talk about passion that I have around blushes without talking about the reformulated NARS blushes. I think that their colors have always been incredible, and the new reformulation has breathed new life into my passion for those colors because the formula is just so lovely. It's like if I'm thinking of a color and I'm like, what's a formula I can trust? I'm gonna go to NARS. I also really like the Merit blushes, the cream blushes. They're sheer. They have a completely different effect on the skin than a lot, especially like the Rhode. You know, they're not going to give you this like instant punch. They are equal parts pigment and texture, and they're amazing toppers. I'm not saying they're invisible. You're going to be able to get something really pretty that's like a watercolor wash on top of a powder look or wear them alone, but they do have a completely different kind of characteristic to them of being very sheer, very dewy, very like low makeup, and I think that if that's what you're looking for, they're perfect in that sense. I think that they serve a distinct purpose, you know? That might be exactly what some people are looking for, and the colors are really, really lovely. Don't sleep on the LYS compact blushes. I like the ones in the stick too. Focused is like my favorite of the stick blush that is a little bit shimmery. They're not actually very shimmery on the skin, but also the triangular compacts of their like suede velvet blush things, whatever. They are so excellent. The colors again are those like really dialed in, what I call like one and done blush shades, because you don't feel compelled to layer them with anything. You're like, oh, that did it. I can't put my finger on why, but like the colors are really nuanced and like well blended that they're just flattering. You know, it's kind of like an hourglass blush where you're like, I don't know how that did that, but I don't care because it looks great, you know? So that's what LYS does really well. That, and they make beautiful hybrid textures that work on dry skin and that also work on oily skin. They don't get their flowers enough. The new Glow Recipe blushes. Ugh, yes, there are only 2 shades, and I really do hope that they're working on expanding because obviously they're brand new. This is another one of the products like I was talking about, like the Westman Atelier bronzer, where it's like use a synthetic brush like the BK112 to apply something like that, because then it won't pick it back up. But it is worth it to make sure that you're putting it on right, because it is so flattering. It is so gorgeous and healthy looking on the skin. It really gives you like that juicy cheek thing. I have the pink one on right now on top of the Westman Atelier Duo. And when I put it, as I was putting it on, I was just like, yeah, it looks like I hit it with like a dewy setting mist. It's so pretty and like youthful and cheerful looking. I really, really like them, and they're only $25. Something in my cart is a YSL blush in the matte formula. All the ones that I bought when I first tested the new YSL blushes were shimmery, and I hated them. They're like really icy. I don't recommend those, but I've heard fantastic things about the ones that aren't shimmery, and I need to just go ahead and do it. But I can't give you like an up or down on that, but that is in my cart. Another crowd pleaser, okay? I still bow down at the Patrick Todd duos. I've rolled my eyes in the past at him kind of expanding the shade range to the point where I like look at some of them and I'm like, even with my extra cones in my eyes, I'm like, is that one really different from that one? Which I'm sure that they are, but they do look really, really similar in a lot of cases. But who cares? You know what I mean? Options are options. What do we want? We want options. And so that formula, that combination of, and honestly, the bronzer contour duo, also excellent. Skip the foundation, skip the compact foundation, and skip the highlighter combo. Oh my God, don't do it. But the blushes are incredible for a reason. They ran with that format for a reason. The colors are great, and they are meant to be used powder and then cream. They work beautifully, and they're one of those things where, again, you have a product in your hand that like you might never need to pull out another blush when you wear that, because it's not about it being a primary color that you're having to think in about like, oh, how does this go with the rest of my look, whatever. It's gonna go with your skin. And it could be your like easiest one and done like simplification of your routine ever. I really, really like those. Another brand that like I don't love everything from, but I really, really love her blushes is Violette. Those blushes are great. They smell fantastic. They have a really nice experience while you're using them. It's another one that isn't too dewy, and it's actually really functional. I think that it's like an exciting thing to interact with. It's a really, really lovely, high quality feeling product. And like Louise is one of the most beautiful, like desaturated peach blushes that I've ever used. And her line is made with people who need a little bit more oil control in mind, just from my experience. I'm not sure if she's ever said that, but that's just been my experience with it. And so it works beautifully for me as almost kind of like a satin finish blush. And then for people I think who had oily complexions, it would still stick around for a long time. Throwing it back, the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Beauty Blush ones, I think I've said it a million times, it's a perfect product. It's one of the only products in that delivery system that actually works. Like when you sponge it onto your face and then you blend it with a brush, that could be a disaster with so many other products and it works somehow. I think that Pillow Talk, like the original Pillow Talk of it, it's like the most uncommonly desaturated pink in my collection. You swatch it against anything else and you're like, oh, like that's almost a gray pink, and that can be so great for some people who everything just goes too vivid on. But she's also got some really fantastic vivid colors. That peach color is awesome. It's awesome. It's so cheerful and bright and neon, and it's a formula that does exactly what it is designed to do. It is really, really phenomenal and beautiful and long wearing. An Hourglass blush, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. An Hourglass palette, Hourglass blush, like they're one of those things that like as you put it on, you don't understand why it's working, but you don't even care. You're just like, that's freaking pretty, who cares, you know? And then yeah, I mean, credit where credit's due, the Pat McGrath powders. They're old, and Pat McGrath has now moved on. She's doing the Louis Vuitton debut makeup line. I can't wait to see it, but it kind of explains why she hasn't really been at the helm of her own company lately. Regardless, there was some genius at work when those blushes were formulated, and they still exist, and they're great. Contour. Charlotte Tilbury does very much own a large portion of my contour collection. I respect her point of view on contour, I guess you could say. The new contour ones in the shade range, like they actually made a shade range, not just like 2 colors. Really beautiful. Still a little thin for my taste, but very easy to work with and very effective. I just think it's a really, really great formula. It isn't as like creamy as the Rare Beauty ones, which I also recommend. The Rare Beauty ones have more nuanced colors to them. Like, it does go back and forth between very cool and very warm, which I appreciate, and the formula is a lot better. I feel like a lot easier to work with than her blush formula that looks very similar, like similar packaging, just because the pigment is so much lower. But it is not as like, is it in the room with us right now as the Makeup by Mario ones. Like, the Makeup by Mario ones, I was like, they're fine if you're afraid of makeup, and it's okay to be afraid of makeup. Like, they're an extremely like gentle way to wade into contour, but I think that the Rare Beauty is just, it's the superior version. But I don't think that the contour wand from Charlotte Tilbury is to be discounted. It's just a different look because it's higher contrast. You're gonna get more of like a real tan out of it, or at least I do. And then, you know, the Film Star Bronze and Glow, I don't know if I have ever been passionately in love with that product, but I have used it to the point of a lot of pan showing, so you know, the proof's in the pudding, I guess. I just really like it. It's very easy to work with, but it is annoying that you buy something that has a highlight in it. You know, I'm never gonna use that highlight, but I still admit that I use the living crap out of it. Westman Atelier's contour stick, I will say, I don't think that they're really like very contoury. It's again in the same kind of realm as Charlotte Tilbury where you're like, it's kind of a bronzer. You know what I mean? Unless you have like really, really warm undertones, it's pretty much a bronzer, but it functions. Like, it does a really good job, and it's easier to work with because not everybody wants to just like crack their eyes open in the morning and start worrying about like a gray leaning contour on their face, you know? Like, sometimes that's just a little too much. You're just like, I can't sit here and study whether that's working or not. I have no patience to be careful right now, and sometimes if you don't have the patience to be careful, something that's just a little bit warmer is the answer, because then it's just gonna, even if you fudge it in the wrong spot, it's gonna look like bronzer, not dirt. And then the Dior, oh, I am going to show you this one. I said I wasn't going to pull any products out, but I'm going to show you this one because I used the crap out of it, and like, it has barely, it has barely like gone down below the top of the package. It is an expensive product, but like, I'm gonna have this for the rest of my life. It has so much product in it, and it's so concentrated and highly pigmented. This is an insane value. I love this thing. For powder, I have a handful of favorites. The first one obviously is gonna be my Kosas. Kosas Cloud Set pressed powder is miraculous stuff for people with dry skin because it's never going to over mattify you. It's never gonna like crack and break up and build up and get cakey and weird. It's never gonna flash back in photos. It's just great stuff. I have used it for many photo shoots. It's just a very gentle softening of the texture. It's not for oil control. If you need oil control, do not pass go on that because you'll be really frustrated. The LYS one I have only been using recently, the loose powder, but my goodness, again, LYS does it. They understand how to make something that works for people who need oil control and for people who don't. It's right there in the sweet spot. It's a very, very finely milled blurring powder. The only thing that I would say is that, you know, there are two shades in it. There's like a pink and a translucent, and both of them will probably be too dark for anyone who is more lightly complected than I am. So I can use it. I think it's really beautiful. It's even a little bit tan on me, but in a flattering way. But the only drawback that I think that there is just that, like, you know, very, 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 very fair skinned people can't use it, but the formula is really special. It's like an HD effect without all the drawbacks of HD powder on dry skin. And honestly, I am not gonna kick the House Labs out of bed. I haven't used it in a while, but like, that's still a great setting powder, especially if you like a loose powder. I would compare it, it's like when Kosas made their loose powder in inexplicably like pink and, you know, bright yellow shades instead of doing actual skin tone colors. You know, we all hoped that it was going to be some kind of magical transformation on the skin, and it wasn't. They're literally just the colors that they are. If you were disappointed by that, try the House Labs loose powder because it's great. It reminds me a lot of the Kosas and kind of how Kosas should have gone about it. Setting mist. Right, I don't think that Sephora is the place to get a setting mist necessarily, but I do think that the new one from Kosas is lovely. It's pretty bulletproof. I'm wearing it right now for being something that doesn't overdo my skin, because it's like if I were to use MAC Fix Plus, which I love, you know, it's gonna melt my makeup and give me this like super dewy finish that I want to kind of powder after the fact to like bring the brightness back, but you don't have to do that with the Kosas setting mist. I feel like it just isn't as aggressively dewy, and I put on a lot today. You do not have to put on as much as I did. Eyeshadow, okay. Merit Solo Shadows, abso-freaking-lutely. I need to replace mine because mine dried out. The only reservation that I have about them is that they have a 6-month expiration date on them, which is weird because I don't think that they're water-based or anything like that. I don't know, I'm not gonna get into that. That could be something that holds you back from it, but they are basically an eyeshadow stick that has been like melted down. And I find them really, really easy to use and the colors are gorgeous and they wear forever. Now, while I'm not a huge fan of these new NARS eyeshadow sticks, the Afterglow Tempting 9-pan eyeshadow palette is a crowd pleaser, okay? Especially for people who have trouble with neutrals going too orange on them or too pink on them, okay? I think that this is such an ideal palette for olive undertones, even very pale olive undertones, because everything's going to pull a really beautiful neutral brown on the skin. And it has a few committed shades in there, like it does have a beautiful bedroomized brown, which I respect the hell out of when I can find one. And it does have some cool options in terms of the two mattes that are in the palette, but the textures, Duke, the textures, they are so gorgeous and varied, and I feel like people are sleeping on this palette. I feel like it is as effective and as exciting as the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette set out to be, but it's got, I think, just a more unique point of view. The Ilia sticks. Here I was in my tepid takes talking about how I shouldn't be necessarily interviewing a whole bunch of eyeshadow sticks because, you know, they're a dime a dozen, they're all the same. The Ilia sticks are special. I did notice my last trip to Sephora that they did also put out matte ones. I don't know, those weren't there the last time I saw them. So last time I went to Sephora, I only tried the shimmery ones. I thought that they only had shimmery ones. The matte ones I'm sure are lovely. A matte eyeshadow stick that functions beautifully is not hard to come by, okay? That's why we have Laura Mercier and Bobbi Brown and, you know, the whole nine. The shimmer effect on an eyeshadow stick is extremely hard to find, and Ilia actually does it. They are long wearing, they are gorgeous, they are actually shimmery. They don't just go down to a weird sooty mix with your eye base kind of like dull see-through unsatisfying thing on the eyes the way that the NARS ones did for me today. The Ilia ones are special. I really like Brocade. I like Brocade a lot. And like I just said, I think that a matte eyeshadow stick that is like really great is not that hard to find. And so Sephora collection is a really good place to get those kinds of things because I don't think that there is a huge difference in packaging style. Like, I don't think the component can really be that luxurious on an eyeshadow stick. And Sephora like wiped their Sephora collection stuff off of their website last year, but they've replaced everything, I think, with like better packaging, especially the little mini shadow compacts. I think that those were pretty faulty. So I don't know why they redid the eyeshadow sticks, but I can't recommend them enough. The Prada eyeshadow palettes are pretty awesome. They're expensive, and honestly the YSL ones I think are even better, but it really matters what kind of color story you're looking for. Either way, a great time to get a discount on those. I don't have as much experience with the Prada ones, I would say, but like that new one that I got, 08, I've been wearing it absolutely every day. I think that it just makes me feel so beautiful. So while I will package it in the fact that like I don't have as much experience with it as I do the Couture mini clutches from YSL, like they are pretty neck and neck in terms of like quality of the formulas, pleasure to use, just that luxurious feeling, and you get such beautiful eye looks out of them. I have a passion for quads that makes sense. You're not catching me out here buying a Tom Ford quad because I don't think that his color stories make any sense in most cases, and I think his formula is kind of like meh. You know what I mean? It's not $90, it's not $100. The YSL ones and the Prada ones, if you are a luxury eyeshadow person, I can highly recommend those formulas, and I love the color stories. It's also the time to save on a Natasha Denona palette. Her palettes aren't that expensive, all things considered, anymore, because she went from like those gigantic $125 palettes down to like the $70 palettes. Still expensive, but like I get so much use out of those palettes, more than I ever thought that I would, because they do what a palette is supposed to do, where you go, I have a feeling, right? I need a warm, I need a nude, I need a gold, right? And that's not what it's called, but then you open the palette up and you have a whole selection of those things. So if that's how you think, a Natasha Denona palette can be incredible for you, and this is the time to get the money off of it. All that to say, I think that a lot of brands also match energy with the Sephora sale by doing on-site sales you know, while the Sephora sale is happening, so that if you shop there, they kind of price match or even sometimes have a better discount. I don't know what Natasha is doing, but I wouldn't be surprised. Same goes for Pat McGrath. She loves an on-site sale during the Sephora sale. Listen, I'll die on this hill. The Too Faced Disco Shadow singles are pretty awesome. I love Magic Sprinkles. It's kind of a game changer. You know, if you're looking for like a really exciting sparkly eyeshadow that's peachy and gorgeous and a little bit more fun, maybe a little less sophisticated than like an Hourglass Scattered Light. Like sometimes I don't want to look sophisticated, okay? Sometimes I want to look fun, and they're really fun. They're fun for people who like don't get into duochromes or multi-chromes all that often, you know? It's fun for me. And eyeliners, I think that the Sephora collection eyeliners are also really incredible. The new Prada one, you know what? I'm wearing it right now. I love it. I don't think you need to pay $36 for an eyeliner, but it's a really nice eyeliner, and the shade Wood is really, really pretty. But Tiramisu is my probably most used eyeliner, and that's from the Sephora collection. It is the color of my eyelashes, and that is why it really gives the illusion of thicker eyelashes, but it is not the most slippy, easy to use formula. I feel like it would benefit from probably sharpening it more often than I do so that it could stay a little bit less stiff, but the color is gorgeous. The formula is actually really great, and long wearing, girl, yes. And that is what I want out of an eyeliner. And the one that I forgot to mention is my actual favorite. When I'm talking about it not being as slippy, it's what I'm comparing it to is the Caviar Tightline eyeliner. Hey, Dino. Laura Mercier, it's so perfect. It's like the perfect amount of slippiness. It's super long wearing, and the color Espresso Brown, I think is what it's called, is the perfect, again, eyelash color for me. That's not all the way to black, but they also have tuxedo. I cannot recommend that formula enough. Highlighter really quickly. The one that I cannot stop using is the Urban Decay Face Bond. It's stupid. It's so awesome, especially as like, I feel like there have been some experimental highlighters coming out from a lot of brands, and there have been experimental products in general coming out from Urban Decay lately, which have all had various levels of success and not success, but that Face Bond highlighter is awesome. If you're looking for a highlighter that is subtle, I'm wearing it right now, and actually stays on the skin. It's a liquid that applies really easily because it's super lightweight and serumy. You can apply it with a sponge like right on top of everything, and it doesn't disturb anything, so it's not balmy. I have it in the shade Silver Lake. It blends perfectly into my skin without ever looking too dark, so I can put it anywhere on my face, and it's just such a subtle texture. I think it's a beautiful highlighter. Like, for someone who doesn't necessarily even always see the necessity for a highlighter, it excites me enough that I wear it because it excites me, you know? Like, I think that it improves a makeup look, and it's so freaking easy to use. Same goes for the Ciel highlighters, okay? I was just talking about it in my Tepid Takes video, like, Supergoop is putting out a highlighter sunscreen stick or whatever, and I just feel like a lot of their stuff just feels like it's so stuck, like 10 years ago in terms of the formulations, whereas someone like Ciel, someone like, you know, Nikki DeRost is putting out formulas that they confound the mind. You're like, that shouldn't behave like that. You shouldn't be able to get like an SPF 30, is it? SPF 50? Not that it's, you know, saving your life by putting an SPF 50 highlighter on, but like it doesn't hurt, right? An SPF 50 highlighter that looks as elegant as that Urban Decay one does. It actually even has a little bit more punch. And this one right here is yellow, which acts as a color correcting under eye brightener for me. Don't use a ton. You don't need much. But my under eyes are purple, and that's yellow. This is the shade Church. It's a pretty miraculous little product. I love those highlighters. I think they're gorgeous. Honestly, I think Ciel is doing some just incredible things. Lips, okay. I could go off. There are so many great lip products, and it's really hard to like annoy me. I will say it's easier sometimes to say the ones that I don't recommend. Don't do the Makeup Forever new lip gloss thing. Between the smell and the taste and the other 3 smells and then the other 3 tastes that happen all in succession, it is a nightmare to use. And the colors aren't worth it. There are so many other ways to get those kinds of color payoffs. It's the most over-designed thing I've ever seen. Skip it. I'll never be on their PR list, apparently. NARS Explicit Lipsticks. Yes, and especially if you're a Merit lipstick person, like the classic, the original one that's not matte, this is a very, very similar formula. It's that same kind of like medium pigment level, and it's just a whole variety of gorgeous, kind of nuanced, different shades. And so if you like the Merit ones and you want different colors, or if you wanted to like the Merit ones, but like the colors didn't work for you, the explicit lipsticks are awesome, and the packaging is so sexy. It's so sexy. It's like this matte black with like these raised letters, and it's just, I think that it's great. And again, NARS has the money to just put out such a massive and exciting shade range of things that, like, you know, winner, chicken dinner. As much grief as I gave him for putting these out, the Makeup by Mario lip glosses are easy and lovely. They have a really great little like applicator on them that has this perfect little cup that when you stick it in and pull it back out, it has like the right amount of product on it. They're just pretty. I have no like really specific things to say about them except that I think that they're really pretty. If you want a gloss that's not gonna piss you off, they're not plumping, they're not pH color adjusting, they're just pretty. Like, it's a good lip gloss. Again, this video is like crowd pleasers. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel over here. It's a good lip gloss. The Pout Preserve from Ole Henriksen, I think was like one of my like top 3 lip products when I interviewed a ton of tinted lip balms, and that one is just, they're just something special about it. And they came out with a bunch more colors because they understand us. They understand our yen for this beautiful formula that we can't really explain why it's so great, but the colors are awesome. They're so pretty, and it's a truly nourishing formula, especially surprising in the sense that, like, I don't know, Ole Henriksen loves to put out things that have like this like choking citrus smell to them, and these are just so deftly handled. They don't feel like just another product from the Ole Henriksen machine. The Edom lip balms, you can't go wrong. They're so pretty. They're the most nourishing vegan lip balm I have ever used, and they're beautiful. I have one in like every purse. They smell really good. The colors are awesome. The packaging is neat. The whole situation is just really nice. I have a lot of belief in that company, and that I think was kind of their debut product, if not just that it was the product that got the most attention the soonest. It's lovely. Oh, and it's got like a metal tip applicator. It's a pleasure. Oh boy, the product that really won me over. I mean, you know I love the YSL Candy Glaze. I'm still buying them and rebuying them. It's not like I had to like trade one out for the other, but also the Ceracril lip balm is so good. You will burn through it. There's not enough product in that package, but it is so lovely. And in the winter, it saved my lips. I will say, do not bother. Sorry, Sarah. Not that we're like friends, but it's like she's commented on my videos before. There's a chance she's like watching. I'm so sorry. I don't think that it translates well to the pigmented version of the balms. They're just not the same. You don't end up with that beautiful, nourishing texture. You can feel the grit in the glittery ones, and they're just, it's too pigmented. It's stiffened the formula. The clear is the one. And something that I will never ever kick out of bed and can always make an excuse to buy are the Dior lip glosses, the lip maximizer glosses, not the oils that have the little bit of pH adjuster in them, but just the ones in little skinny guys. They still have that little bit of a capsaicin tingle to them, the same way that, like, you know, the Thrive ones do, but they don't turn your lips red. You actually still get the color payoff. They're great. They're great, and they come in a bunch of weird colors, and I like them a lot. Brows, Merit. I actually just bought the Merit brow gel. I had bought it in taupe earlier, and I really like it, but it wasn't dark enough, and so I bought it in light brown, and that's what I'm wearing right now, and I am very pleased with my decision. I think they reformulated it, and it's really quite lovely. Big fan. Also, though, the Versed one, because same company, that one at Target is also fantastic. Again, I'm not sure that I would be able to tell them apart blindfolded, but I own all of them now, so I will continue to enjoy all of them. Kosas, 10 shades and a clear, and they're just really, really lovely. And one of the biggest things for me, especially when we're talking about like, does clean beauty mean anything? A lot of times no, but like there are things about each and every one of us that makes a difference with the ingredients, right? If a brow product is too waterproof and doesn't rinse cleanly enough with like normal face washing, I will get horrible breakouts in my eyebrows, Gen C destroyed my eyebrows. It was awful. Like I had the worst breakout ever until I figured out that that was what was causing it. Kosas and Merit, both kind of claiming to be clean brands, whatever, they both work really well as what they're designed to do, and they don't break my skin out, and they wash cleanly, which is great. Just great. And then the Refi. Y'all, Refi has so many eyebrow products. I do love all of them, but the one that has really impressed me the most is the one with like the ball on the end of the applicator with all the really, really tiny spikes on it, because it separates my eyebrow hairs as if I have been micro braided. Micro bladed. It makes my eyebrow hairs look like they have been drawn in with the finest pencil of all time. And because of the shape and like the length of the little bristles on it, it never gets on your skin. Now, if you don't have eyebrow hairs for it to lock onto, it is not the product for you. But Refi, I think, has a veritable wardrobe, right, of options in terms of brow products. And I think that they're all really fantastic for what they set out to do. Jess Hunt knows brows. I think that that is it for makeup. I want to touch briefly on the everything else category. It is like skincare, hair care, fragrance, home fragrance, that sort of thing. One of the biggest things that I am incredibly in love with right now, and I love also that it's not wildly expensive, are these Innisfree salicylic and retinol daily pads. Okay, am I a daily pads person usually? No. Am I a retinol everyday person? No. These are so gentle. They're so gentle and effective. There is no sting. You're not super excoriating your skin with the pads. They don't feel like Stridex wipes or something like that back in the day. It's all a very gentle experience. And for me, someone who is prone to perioral dermatitis, to be able to say that, like, yes, I can use a salicylic acid and retinol pad on my skin every single night if I so choose, and it never irritates my skin, that is huge. They're great. The company sent them to me and I was like, I don't know, but like as soon as it touched my face and there was no sting, there was no irritation, and like I woke up to brighter skin, especially in concert with everything else that I'm using. Like it's between like that and then the LED mask, like I wake up with just this brightened skin and it feels fantastic, especially to be able to like tell y'all something like that that is not expensive. I mean, Dr. Jart Ceramide, they started making a big boy. I don't know when they started making a big boy, but I bought it. It's like 60 bucks, but like I bought it because I have gotten hopelessly back in love with Dr. Jart Ceramide, and it's just such an irreplaceable layer in my routine. It also has a cosmetically beautiful blur to it that keeps me from picking my face, which is just such like a silly, funny little thing to notice. I don't think that they set out to do that, but to put something on my skin at night that makes all of my skin look a little bit more soft focus is going to keep me from kind of coming back in, finding myself in a fugue state like 2 inches from the mirror, like mashing things. It saves my life, and it's a really, really beautiful moisturizer in and of itself. That's why it is what it is, and it's existed the way that it has for so long. Some hair things. I think that the Crown Affair dry shampoo is for people who don't want to pay all that money for the Violette dry shampoo that, you know, is just for her bangs or whatever. I did the numbers, and like the Crown Affair one is just like approximately a zillion times more cost effective, smells lovely, and it's a little powder in a jar, you know what I mean, with a brush, and you use it like that, and it's great. It's great to travel with because it's not an aerosol, and it lasts forever. And it's just a high quality luxury kind of feeling product to use, you know? It just feels luxurious while you're using it, and it functions beautifully. And you use so little of it that like it doesn't give your hair like that instant white cast. I feel like it's good for a lot of people like me who like don't need a ton of oil control. You just want something subtle, but it is still really effective. I also happen to like to wear my hair pulled back like this, like, you know, strapped back. I feel like it's easier for me to do my makeup like this, and my hair down just gets in my way. It drives me crazy. And the way that I kill these little guys, my hair is not naturally straight, okay? And it is mostly curly around my face. And these guys right here, as they dry naturally, are just these stubborn, curly baby hairs that just like radiate from my face. That Crown Affair finishing gel is so excellent because it's restylable, but also like I can take it between my fingers and just angrily do this, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, stay with my, you know, my boar bristle brush and just like get that nice clean line, and it does. It stays. And it doesn't break my skin out, which is nice because that's a lot of skin you're putting that product on. It's not just hair. Like if I'm kind of pasting it down right here, it needs to also not piss my skin off, and it doesn't piss my skin off. And I bought that thing. The bottle when I bought it was $45. Everything's gone up with inflation. I don't know how much it is right now, but I bought it at $45 probably like a year and a half ago, and like no sign of a dent in the product. I mean, I use like this much every single time. That thing will last you for freaking ever. The other thing that I burn through much more quickly is the Color Wow Style on Steroids. Wow. Color Wow. No, it's amazing for fine hair. I would not recommend it for people who have heavy hair, like of any kind, really. If you have fine hair that needs volume, it's flipping incredible. It's going to work better also, even if you have kind of heavier hair, it's gonna work well if you have color treated hair because it's gonna have that natural like dryness and grit that's going to help a product like that bond to it. But it's halfway between a hairspray and a texturizing spray, but you can't go overboard with it. Like, I'm sorry, you can't do too much. You can just keep going and going and going and like nothing bad happens. What you do is like once you've got your hair styled, you sort of like, you know, pull the layers back and you can hit not just the roots, but like all the hair with it. And then you let it sit for a second just so that it dries. Open your door to your bathroom though, because you can just like smoke your bathroom up with it really easily. But it makes this restylable volume that lasts until you wash it next. It's awesome and it is not oily. It won't weigh your hair down at all. It's not oily and it's not also like incredibly gritty to the point that it's gonna make your hair feel dirty. It is made for people who have hair like mine. That's just thin and fine and loves to go flat. It's amazing stuff. And my mom has super, super, super curly hair and it works great for her too. God, I knew this video was gonna be long. I have been trying. I'm trying to get through this quickly, but like it's a long video. We're almost done. Okay, deodorant. The vanilla skin deodorant from Fleur. Absolutely. I cannot recommend it enough. It has this beautiful, sweet vanilla, but also a little bit of like base notes kind of, so my kid loves it. Oh, every time I like take a shower and I put on my deodorant, he's like, oh, ooh, you smell so good. It's a great base for perfume too, to have that vanilla kind of like already like the aura, right? And then you can just top it with something. I love it. I think it's part of my like personal scent. I don't think that they have father figure at Sephora, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to. I'm a vanilla skin girl all the way. As far as Fleur is concerned, also the Missing Person lotion. Missing Person is a skin scent, and so it's very intimate. It's a very close scent where you're not like necessarily announcing it to everyone. And so I think that it works really beautifully as like a body lotion and a body oil. I have the body oil, but I don't think that they have that at Sephora. I'm happy to report that I am wrong. It is at Sephora and it is so lovely. But the body lotion they do, and I recommend it so much. If you like that smell, you get, it's like a soft kind of powdery jasmine smell, but again, it's really, really subtle and intimate. And it's a really great actual lotion formula. A little goes a long way. It's not necessarily a winter lotion for me because I get into like full on, you know, medicated territory in the winter. But as it started to get like more humid and a little bit warmer outside here, I use it every single day and I love it. So hopefully that was quick and dirty enough for y'all. Easy to digest, unfussy. I didn't want to make like a huge deal out of it. So I hope you appreciated it and I hope you have an enjoyable Sephora sale. If you enjoyed this video, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you aren't yet subscribed, definitely subscribe while you're here. We would love to have you. I want to thank Current Body again for sponsoring a portion of today's video. Y'all can check out all of the Current Body offerings on their website down below using my link, and you can use my code to get 10% off everything Current Body skin, and I highly recommend that you do. I believe in them wholeheartedly and you will pry my LED mask from my cold dead hands. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here and I will see you in the next one. Bye.